Lexington, Kentucky, perhaps best known for the championship thoroughbreds that graze peacefully on its famed bluegrass. But a few miles away, the calm is shattered, for Lexington is also the home of the University of Kentucky's Rupp Arena. Over the last 9 years, more fans have watched college basketball in this arena than anywhere else in the country. This weekend, it is the college basketball capital of the world as 4 outstanding teams compete for the 1985 NCAA Basketball Championship. A Big East feast. The 1985 NCAA Final Four highlight show is brought to you by Spalding Sports Worldwide, maker of the official ball of the 1985 NCAA Men's and Women's Basketball Championships. Yes, the scene is Rupp Arena, but it could just as easily be Madison Square Garden, home of the Big East tournament, because for the first time in the 47-year history of the NCAA tournament, 3 teams from the same conference have made it to the Final Four. The Georgetown Hoyas and the St. John's Redmen, ranked 1-2 in the nation, are joined by the surprising Villanova Wildcats, who finished in a tie for 3rd place in the Big East regular season wars. The Villanova Wildcats reached the Final Four the old-fashioned way. They earned it by stringing together one of the most impressive streaks of wins in NCAA tournament history. Seeded 8th in the Southeast Regional, the Wildcats started by edging the University of Dayton. Then they defeated the nation's number 2 team, the University of Michigan. Villanova avenged a midseason loss to the Maryland Terrapins and then eliminated the North Carolina Tar Heels. Villanova had become the Cinderella team of the tournament. The team left to hold the banner for the rest of the basketball world is Memphis State, the champions of the Metro Conference. Coach Dana Kirk's Tigers have been to the Sweet 16 of the NCAA tournament 4 consecutive years, culminating in this, their 2nd ever appearance in the Final Four. The Memphis State Tigers and their 27-3 record were seated 2nd behind Oklahoma in the Midwest Regional. After a 12-point victory over Pennsylvania, Memphis State survived consecutive heartstoppers against Alabama, Birmingham, and Boston College. Last-second jump shots by guard Andre Turner won both games. The Tigers then nipped the Sooners to earn their trip to Lexington. In the afternoon's first semifinal game, Villanova's task is clear. They must stop Memphis State's inside game of 7-foot William Bedford and 6'10" All-American Keith Lee. Coach Rolly Massimino is well aware of the obstacles that lie ahead.
Memphis State was an outstanding basketball team. They were ranked in the top 5 the entire year. They had probably the top 1-2 punch in terms of big people in the United States. And our goal was to control Keith Lee. That's what we tried to do.
The game begins as a dunk-a-thon, and Bedford starts it off for the Tigers. Ed Pinckney responds for Villanova. Dwayne Bailey puts Memphis State on top, and the Tigers' lead grows to 13-7 on this slam by Bedford with 11 minutes, 4 seconds left in the half. But just when Memphis State is finding a groove, Villanova's multiple defenses take their toll. Harold Jensen converts, and the Wildcats draw even. Once again, the Tigers go to their strength. Keith Lee breaks the tie. But Villanova will not be intimidated. Dwayne McClain hits from the baseline to even the score at 15. Villanova's aggressive offense takes the ball right at Keith Lee, and the result is 2 first-half fouls. At the other end, a swarming defense holds Lee to just 2 first-half baskets. With Lee covered like a blanket, Memphis State is forced to look elsewhere for scoring. Baskerville Holmes works free underneath and gives the Tigers a 21-18 lead. But Villanova fights back and takes the lead as Dwayne McClain hits his 4th field goal of the half. With 1:30 left in the half, the Tigers tie it up once more, and again Holmes is the main man. Despite 2 fouls each on Memphis State's 3 big men, the score remains tied as the first half draws to a close. As the second half begins, Memphis State attempts to reestablish its presence inside, using this basket by Holmes to break the halftime deadlock. But Villanova does its own share of inside work, and this battle produces both a pretty score by Ed Pinckney and Keith Lee's third foul with 17 minutes to go. The Wildcats then begin to take charge. This basket by Dwayne McClain begins a run of 9 straight points for Villanova. This ballet move by Harold Presley makes it 39-33 Villanova with less than 12 minutes remaining. But for Memphis State, the bad news doesn't end there. With just over 10 minutes left, Lee commits foul number 5 and leaves having scored just 3 field goals. With Villanova holding an 8-point lead, the Tigers' outlook is bleak indeed.
We were really on a high when Keith Lee fouled out, and then they called timeout and gave themselves an opportunity to get right back into the game. And that's what happens when two outstanding teams play against each other. You know, things happen. And what happened is that they made their last run at us, and then we just persevered, so to speak.
The Tigers did come alive. In 7 minutes, they score 8 straight points while holding Villanova scoreless. This 15-foot jumper by Andre Turner ties the score at 41 with 3:28 remaining. But Villanova perseveres with style as Dwayne McClain glides through Memphis State's foul-plagued defense to give his team a 4-point lead with 2 minutes to go. But Memphis State is not finished. Bedford sneaks through for an easy layup, and Massimino is not pleased. Memphis State creeps to within 1. But Andre Turner's string of last-minute heroics comes to an end. Memphis State is forced to foul. That's better, right, Rolly? With just 21 seconds left in the game, Gary McClain's 2 clutch foul shots sealed the victory. The Tigers head down court for one last attempt to get back in it. But again, Turner just barely misses. The Tigers connect on only 2 of 6 shots in the final moments. Villanova does it again. The Cinderella team continues its march to destiny. The afternoon's second semifinal game pits the nation's 2 top-ranked teams against each other for the 4th time this season. It is another matchup between America's Collegiate Players of the Year, 1984 Olympians Patrick Ewing, whose very presence dominates every game, and Chris Mullin, whose renowned shooting and underrated passing spark comparisons with former Princeton All-American Bill Bradley. The 34-2 Hoyas are the nation's #1 team and the top seed in this tournament. With Ewing at center, Georgetown is looking to become the first team since UCLA in 1973 to successfully defend a national championship. Coach John Thompson's Hoyas swept through the East Regional in convincing fashion, defeating Lehigh, Temple, and a determined Loyola of Chicago. Then, despite playing much of the game with Ewing on the bench in foul trouble, the Hoyas ousted ACC champion Georgia Tech in the regional final. Georgetown may be #1 in the country, but they finished #2 in their own conference. St. John's won the Big East regular season title with just 1 conference loss. The Red Men spent 4 weeks atop the national polls after beating the Hoyas by 1 point in mid-season. But Georgetown ripped the Red Men twice after that, and the 27-3 Red Men were shipped out as the #1 seed in the West Regional. There they routed Southern University before edging past Arkansas. St. John's then defeated Kentucky and whipped North Carolina State for its first Final Four berth since 1952. Perhaps no 2 teams in America know each other as well as these 2. Carnesecca hopes time has not run out on his Red Man. This meeting begins in a pattern all too familiar to St. John's. After winning the tap, Ewing takes only 8 seconds to give his team a 2-0 lead. The Hoyas play defense like a team possessed. Every pass is contested, every shot defended. Their tenacious defense allows St. John's to attempt just 1 field goal in the game's first 4 minutes. The Hoyas' onslaught continues. Reggie Williams hits a jumper for an 8-2 lead. Ewing hits from the ceiling for a 10-2 lead. St. John's has not yet scored from the field, and the Red Men call timeout. The Red Men regroup, and 15 seconds later, Mullen shakes free long enough to score his team's first basket of the game. But the Hoyas continue to smother Mullen, and good defense on one end quickly becomes 2 points at the other. Georgetown looks unbeatable. Bill Martin connects from outside. And the lead jumps to 10 on this goaltend of a Ewing jumper. Georgetown fans already smell victory. But the celebrating is premature. Center Bill Wennington scores emphatically. No, this is not an instant replay. Wennington does it again, and suddenly the Red Men are within 2. The ever-present Mullen scores St. John's 10th unanswered point to give the Red Men a tie game with just under 6 minutes to play in the first half. But Georgetown is a cast of thousands, and reserve Horace Broadnax comes right back to put the Hoyas up by 4. When the set play fails, Georgetown improvises. Reggie Williams flips one in, and the Hoyas take a 4-point lead into halftime. The Hoyas open the second half in familiar fashion, forcing turnovers at one end and turning them into baskets at the other. This devastating blend of non-stop pressure defense and precision offense has made the Hoyas the nation's most feared team the past 2 seasons. With 17:48 remaining in the game, St. John's has committed 13 turnovers to Georgetown's 4. But the Red Men refuse to fold. Nice pass work sets up this Willie Glass slam. Bill Wennington tries to keep the Red Men within arm's reach. St. John's trails by 9. But the Hoyas have the determination of a champion, giving it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 efforts to earn Coach Thompson's applause. Ewing then muscles in and gives the Hoyas a 14-point cushion midway through the second half. St. John's desperately tries to make up that deficit. Barry makes sure this Mullen miss ends up in the right place. And St. John's fans love it. The Hoyas come right back, though, on the strength of Jackson's rainbow jumper. In the face of a relentless defense, Mullen hits his only field goal of the second half. But Georgetown fans have no reason to worry. The Hoyas reapply the clamps on Mullen, who scores under 10 points for the first time in 100 games. This slam by Ewing balloons the lead to 16 points, and Hoya fans wave goodbye to the Red Men. The Hoyas finish off an impressive 18-point victory and serve notice that they are more than ready to defend their national championship. It's Monday night in frenzied Rupp Arena, the first championship game between conference rivals since Indiana and Michigan squared off in 1976. 2 outstanding teams led by 2 exceptional coaches. Georgetown's John Thompson brings his Hoyas to their 3rd NCAA championship game in the last 4 years. Only 4 other schools in NCAA history have accomplished that feat. Hoya fans think their team is the class of the nation. Although this is his first Final Four, Rolly Massimino is no stranger to success either. He has led Villanova to 3 other Final 8 appearances in the last 7 years. In 2 close losses to Georgetown this year, Villanova held the Hoyas to under 60 points both times, something no other team could do even once. Despite that, few experts give the Wildcats a chance in this game. But Massimino knows better.
I don't think there was anyone that really felt we could win the game except our players and the coaching staff. I thought we had to control the tempo of the game. We had to make sure that we believed in what we could do. We had to also play to win instead of playing not to lose. That was very, very important to us.
The Wildcats, in the face of terrific Georgetown pressure, immediately seek to establish an inside game. Harold Presley makes it 2-0 Villanova. But the Hoyas' floor leader, Michael Jackson, finds David Wingate, who quickly ties the score at 2. Dwayne McClain shows there's no fear in these Wildcats. A Villanova turnover gives the ball back to the Hoyas, and Ewing lets fly from long range. Bill Martin is there for the rebound, and Georgetown leads by 4. But during the first 6 minutes of the game, Villanova is perfect from the field. Dwayne McClain hits his 3rd straight to close the gap. Villanova finally misses, and the Hoyas take advantage with a gorgeous fast break from Martin to Jackson to Wingate. The Hoyas threaten to break it open, using Ewing inside and Reggie Williams outside. Much to the displeasure of Rolly Massimino, Georgetown takes a 6-point lead. With the Hoyas on the verge of pulling away, the Wildcats show their poise, slowing the tempo and working the ball for a good shot. Georgetown comes up empty twice in a row, and Dwayne McClain takes charge. He goes over the outstretched Ewing for his 4th basket without a miss. Villanova is shooting 90%, Georgetown 67, and the game is tied at 20. For the next 60 seconds, the two teams go at each other like a couple of heavyweights. First Ewing, then Presley drives and gets the bounce. Ewing counters with an exclamation point. Gary McClain bombs away over Ewing. But Ewing isn't finished. The fearless Wildcats match the mighty Hoyas basket for basket. Harold Jensen cuts Georgetown's lead to 1. Late in the half, with Pinckney on the bench with 2 fouls, Villanova again slows down the pace. This second effort by Presley gives Villanova a 1-point halftime lead. Villanova is shooting an astounding 72% against the Georgetown team, which for the past 2 years has allowed its opponents only 39% accuracy. The Wildcats' confidence is evident early in the second half as they take the ball right inside. Their confidence is rewarded when Ewing picks up 3 quick fouls in less than 5 minutes. Villanova's phenomenal shooting continues. Gary McClain gives the Wildcats a 6-point lead after 3 minutes of the second half, and Villanova fans start thinking national championship. But steady Bill Martin has other ideas, and he puts Georgetown fans back on their feet. Villanova tests the Hoyas inside. This flip by Dwayne McClain and the ensuing foul shot give his team a 5-point lead with 13 minutes left. Hoya fans have come to expect great things from Patrick Ewing, and once again he responds. But Villanova's defense tonight is supernatural. Ewing will manage just 1 more field goal in his last 13 minutes. Meanwhile, the shooting remains red hot, and the lead changes hands 6 times in the next 3 minutes. Harold Jensen averaged just 4 points per game during the season, but he shows he's not afraid to pull the trigger. He gets the roll, and Villanova sustains its amazing shooting percentage at 77. The lead continues to seesaw. This driving layup by Wingate gives the Hoyas a 1-point lead, but it doesn't last long. The Wildcats capitalize on 2 Georgetown misses and look to Ed Pinckney, who gets another good roll to forge a 5-point lead. But the Hoyas are the defending champions, and they won't go down easily. 6 unanswered points, aided by 3 Villanova turnovers, put Georgetown back on top. Ahead by 1 point with less than 4 minutes remaining, the Hoyas revert to their vaunted 4 corners offense. But perhaps the game's most crucial turnover gives possession back to the Wildcats. After calling timeout for a last-minute strategy talk, Villanova spreads the offense. Jensen finds an opening, and Villanova takes the lead 55-54 with 2.5 minutes to go. Jensen has hit all 5 of his shots from the field, and Villanova has missed just 1 shot in the second half. The Hoyas look for a good shot, but Wingate can't find the range. As the clock winds down inside of 2 minutes, Villanova works the ball around patiently, and the Hoyas are forced to foul. The Wildcats' newest hero, Jensen, hits 4 consecutive foul shots, giving him 14 points and his team a 5-point lead. Just under 1 minute remaining. Ewing tries to close the gap, but Dwayne McClain grabs the precious rebound, and the Hoyas are forced to foul again. Georgetown prays for a miss. And their prayers are answered. Villanova's lead remains at 5 as the Hoyas rush down court. But the Hoyas give the ball right back, and Villanova heads to the foul line with 52 seconds left to play. Harold Jensen concentrates, but the roll is not there, and the desperate Hoyas set up once again. Ewing brings the Hoyas to within 3, but time is running out. Villanova again plays keep away, forcing another Georgetown foul, and a delirious crowd roars its approval. This time, McClain doesn't miss. 4 straight clutch free throws in the closing seconds give him a game-high 17 points and put the finishing touches on one of the great upsets in NCAA tournament history. Villanova winds up shooting a tournament record 79% from the field. The Wildcats needed a perfect game to beat the Hoyas, and they got it. And just imagine the feelings of this man, Jake Nevin, team trainer since 1929, to whom the Villanova players had dedicated their entire season. To Rolly Massimino, it was a dream come true.
Winning the NCAA championship is probably the finest thing that's ever happened to me since having a wife and a family and a mother and a father. Getting to the Final Four was the culmination for me. Winning the championship was a miracle.
A Big East feast. The 1985 NCAA Final Four highlight show has been brought to you by Spalding Sports Worldwide, maker of the official ball of the 1985 NCAA Men's and Women's Basketball Championships. This has been an NCAA Productions presentation.